Hey, folks, welcome back. Today, we're going to ask the question, what is an entrepreneur? I mean, think about it. We hear the word all the time, given it's difficult to say, let alone spell. Nevertheless, we're always saying things like, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur, or she's very entrepreneurial. What does that mean? Well, today we are going to answer that question. So, first of all, you know, we love to idolize or even vilify the most famous entrepreneurs. Have you ever noticed when a new entrepreneur, a new big mogul starts to come on the scene, when they are in startup mode, we worship them. We are fascinated. We watch all the YouTube videos about how they manage their time and what their morning routine is and what they eat for breakfast. And yet, when they start to become really successful, almost too successful, they go from being the hero to the villain. That's right, the whole Batman line, right? Well, okay, understanding that, let's get back to the question, what is an entrepreneur? Well, an entrepreneur is someone who assumes the risk of creating, organizing, and operating a business to satisfy an unmet need in the marketplace. Yawn. Is that all these people do? Taking on the risk of setting up a business to meet an unmet need in the marketplace? That's not very interesting. Well, truth is, there's a lot more to it. So, a key aspect of entrepreneurship is the idea of value capture, the monetization and commercialization of innovations. Here's the thing, innovation is all over the place. It coming up with ideas is not the difficult part. The difficult part is turning these ideas into something that can be monetized, something that can meet a need and make money. Okay? All right, so what do I mean by innovation? Remember, we're talking about the commercialization and monetization of innovation. Well, innovation is both radical and incremental improvements in products, processes, organizations, practices, and strategies. Okay, why is it important to understand this? Well, oftentimes I feel like in today's world, when we think of innovation, we think of something you plug in, right? It's an electric technology. That's an innovation. But truth is, innovation comes in many, many forms. Yes, it can be new products or designs or functionality, new product functionality, but it can also be manufacturing methods or business processes, service delivery models, or organizational structures. Innovation, both radical and incremental, affects all of these and many other things. So, an entrepreneur is somebody who's able to figure out how to take innovation in all of these domains and monetize it, make it profitable. Okay, so here's another thing. When it comes to innovation, we often think of it as the epiphany idea. We had this amazing idea. Well, that's not the case when it comes to entrepreneurs. We're not just talking a one off. Entrepreneurs integrate innovation into the organization's basic business mentality. Every day is an exercise in innovation. Now, I should probably pause here a moment and say, remember, we're talking about both radical and incremental innovation. So, what's the difference? Well, radical innovation is what we often think about when we think of innovation, right? We're talking a whole new technology or a whole new process or a whole new this, something that makes the front page of the Wall Street Journal or The Guardian, right? However, incremental innovation is really the bread and butter of continuous improvement and beating the competition. Not radical, incremental. What's incremental? Tiny little adjustments, tiny little tweaks, improving a process or a product or its functionality or any other aspect of business, by 1%. Nothing big, nothing fancy, nothing sexy, nothing that's going to get you attention. But you do 1% every day, and trust me, you're going to beat the competition every day of the year. So when it comes to an entrepreneur, they are looking for ways to integrate innovation into every aspect of day-to-day business, okay? It's not just a rabbit you there we go. It's not just a rabbit you pull from a hat on special occasions. It must be integral to the way the company operates every day. Okay. Um, Entrepreneurs really encourage a culture of innovation, open to questioning assumptions and debating alternatives to the current approach. This includes taking risks, closely observing results, learning from them, and trying again. In other words, learning from failure. You know, we love to look at the amazing heights that many of these entrepreneurs attain. I mean, they do some pretty amazing things, but we don't often know about the first few businesses they started or their first few ventures. Many of them crashed and burned in some pretty apocalyptic ways. So, really learning from our failure, not feeling shame from failure and not feeling like, oh, I'll never be able to do what I want to do. No, no, no. Failure is a process of learning. So the next time you do it, you're going to be successful. Okay. Um, who are we talking about? Entrepreneurs. That's right. Entrepreneurs are really good at managing the tension between creativity, innovation, and kind of the business rigor that needs to be brought to commercialization. Entrepreneurs manage the natural tension between creativity and value capture. Creativity without the ability to translate it into profits can be fun, but it's unsustainable. So, yeah, you can be creative all day long, but if you're not making money off of it, you're not going to be able to do it all year long. Profits without creativity is rewarding, but only in the short term. You might be able to create something that somebody likes right now, but customer needs and wants and desires and expectations are forever changing. Innovation and creativity is what allows you to keep up with the changing needs of the customer base. So if you're not integrating it into your processes, you're going to fall behind. Entrepreneurs are very good at managing the tension between these two worlds. Think about this. Think about, say, a film director. Now, this is Wes Anderson, a favorite film director of mine. Well, he's very creative. His movies are very stylized. I'm not going to go on about Wes Anderson. This will be here all day, right? But here's the idea. He is creative and stylized, but he also has to worry about budgets. He has to worry about film shoots. He has to worry about schedules. He has to worry about locations. He has to worry about, the props and so on and so forth. He has to worry about the studio and their bean counters that are, making sure that he's keeping track of budgets. But he also has to worry about his talent and the very mercurial sort of personalities that he has among his actors and his performers and so forth. So he has to manage both the hard nosed business side of making a movie as well as the creative, sort of head in the clouds innovation side of shooting a movie. So that's what entrepreneurs do in the business world. Now, let me give you an example of innovation without value capture. So, ages ago, back in the 1970s, there was this company called Xerox. All right, Xerox is still around today. But Xerox said, you know what, we need to innovate, we need to create, we need to continue moving forward. So they took all their best researchers and they sent them off to Palo Alto, California. Xerox is in Rochester, New York. They sent them to the other side of the country, Palo Alto, California. It wasn't the big tech center that it is today, but they were right next to Stanford and so on and so forth. And they said to their researchers, innovate, just create new stuff, push the boundaries, take us into the future. And these researchers did. They did a few things. First of all, they created this thing called a mouse. Yeah, right? This mouse. And the idea of a mouse is that you could actually move a cursor around on the computer and create what they called a GUI interface, graphical user interface. GUI interface. I know, right? This is amazing. I'm jesting because you know all this stuff. You live in it, right? But nevertheless, they also created, here's that GUI interface where you could actually have documents on a desktop. Oh my gosh, right? And a calculator, right? And all kinds of things, right? Um, and by the way, when you printed all the stuff that you created, you got WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. Well, they were pretty proud of what they created, so they took it back to Rochester, New York, and said, "Et voilà, c'est ici, check it out." And Rochester went, "Okay, um, cool, that's pretty neat, but how is this going to help us sell more printers?" They just couldn't see the potential of this. Now, to be fair, they did go off and start a computer. This graphic here is from a Star computer, a kind of a, half-hearted attempt to use what these researchers did, but they did not really embrace it. Well, the researchers went back to Palo Alto, their heads hung low just a little bit. But they started to give tours of their stuff, and they would show it off, and they would take it to conventions and so forth. Well, you probably know that a couple of the people that checked this out were a couple of guys named Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Yes, the founders of Apple. And they saw this, and they saw innovation, and they knew how to capture value with this innovation. So they adopted it, and they hired some of the people from here. And as they say, the rest is history. So this is innovation without value capture. Apple was entrepreneurial enough to figure out how to do it. Okay. Now, another thing that entrepreneurs can do is they can neutralize the opposition. Listen, anytime you really try to push the boundaries, innovate, even incrementally, you're going to get opposition. Innovation necessitates change and stimulates a response system. The routines and cultural norms act to block and negate that change. Systems love to push back against change. Systems are really, how do I put this? Systems self-perpetuate. Okay, they become Byzantine in the way they do work, and so they don't want change. They want to maintain the status quo. So anytime that change or innovation is introduced, you need to know how to neutralize those systems that would try to push back. That's what an entrepreneur does. So, do you have what it takes to be an entrepreneur? Well, let's check this out. Let's look at some of the common personality traits of an entrepreneur, and we can kind of assess things, right? So, first of all, an entrepreneur has a vision for the future. They see problems as opportunities. Oh my gosh, yes. An entrepreneur does not know what a problem is. They only know how to see them in terms of opportunities. A problem, by definition, is an unmet need. There is a need out there that is unmet. Therefore, it's a problem? No, no, no. Therefore, it's an opportunity. They see trends and have a clear sense of where they're going and the inevitability of their success. They truly believe in their ability to make that success happen. Another thing is they really know how to practice informed risk taking. An entrepreneur doesn't just light their hair on fire and go charging into the fray. They really want to understand what the risks are and take informed risk taking. They are aware of the risks, recognize what they can do to influence whatever is happening and what they cannot do. And they are undaunted by failure. Absolutely undaunted. Once again, failure is just simply the learning process. It's little people who get discouraged by failure. Entrepreneurs look at the learnings, the afterwits they get from failure and see it as gold. Okay, very self motivated. Are you self motivated? They're both intrinsically, I do it because I love it, and extrinsically, I do it for the money, motivated. Okay. They are just driven both internally and at the promise of external reward. They are driven to do what they do, and nothing really gets in their way. They're not talking about doing it. They're already in their basements and garages doing it, right? If somebody says they're an entrepreneur, but they don't really do anything, they just talk, they're not an entrepreneur. On the other hand, if somebody is in their basement or in their garage or in a spare room, tinkering and messing with things and trying to find solutions, and they don't have time for video games and they are barely interesting at parties because all they talk about is whatever they're doing in their basement or garage, that's an entrepreneur. You found one. They are also self directed. All right. There's no boss hanging around them telling them you need to do this, that, and the other. Once again, with motivation comes self direction. In addition to being self motivated, they're self directed, able to wear multiple hats, study the problem, find the answer, and manage their time and resources. So they are always looking for ways to overcome whatever obstacle is in front of them. And sometimes that means being an accountant, it means being a marketer, it means being an engineer, it means being a janitor. And you've got to be able to not only wear these hats, but prioritize them and manage all the time necessary to do everything that needs to be done. That's self directed. They are also leaders. Yes. They work well with others and have good leadership and communication skills. They can motivate others to feel as passionately about the enterprise as they do. This one is key, able to inspire action from others. So here's the thing. I don't care how entrepreneurial you are. You only have 24 hours in a day. And as a one person operation, you can only pull off so much. An entrepreneur is somebody who is able to recruit others and have them believe in their vision as much as they do. Therefore, you no longer have 24 hours a day. Now you have 48 hours a day. Now you have 72 hours in a day. Now you have all this time that is fed by the same passion that feeds you at your disposal. So, leadership and entrepreneurship and really getting your people to feel as passionately about whatever you're doing as you do, that is key to success. Entrepreneurs can also see the whole picture. They are system thinkers. They see the whole process rather than just the individual pieces. Now, this is key. They love everything about their business and how they all interrelate, not just the core product or service that they provide. Here's the thing, and I feel strongly about this. There's loving your product or service, and then there's loving the process. So let's say for a moment that you want to start a business and you really love YouTube. All right. You love YouTube. And I want to be a YouTuber and I'm really into YouTube and I'm really into the technology and I want to do this, that, and the other. That is fantastic. That's great. You will have a certain level of success. However, an entrepreneur says, I love business. I love creating. I love leading. I love solving problems and turning them into opportunities. It doesn't matter what domain I'm in. I could be in YouTube. I could be in washing machines. I could be in aircraft. I could be in bicycle tires. It wouldn't matter. I love the process of business. This person will have success in just about every way imaginable because it doesn't matter what they do. Let's say for a moment that YouTube falters or falls down flat or nobody's interested in your area of expertise. Well, then you're kind of out of luck. On the other hand, an entrepreneur can just shift from one thing to another because, well, the product isn't important, it's the creating. That's why Elon Musk can create PayPal, Tesla, and SpaceX. What's the commonality? Not a whole lot. He just loves creating. And there you go. You're all set now. That's an entrepreneur. And you get to now ask yourself if you have what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. I hope you do, and I hope you found this helpful. And until we talk again, have a fantastic day.